ClancyPasta presents We Should Have Never Created Holograms of Dead Musicians. Written by Silas Stone. According to a contract I signed in the year of 2012, everything you are about to hear is completely prohibited. As an ex-editor for a well-known special effects studio, I would like to remain anonymous. That is why you may notice I refrain from using people's names or places where the incidents took place, for the sake of keeping my identity hidden. I'm taking a huge risk here, leaking this information online, but the public deserves to know. We are unwittingly crossing into territory never meant for the living, and messing with forces that we don't yet understand, all for the sake of entertainment. We should have left well enough alone. What's dead should stay dead. As many of you may remember, fans and attendants witnessed a surprise performance by none other than Tupac Shakur. The long-dead legendary rapper blew fans' minds with his lifelike appearance. Its interactions with Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg almost seemed too real to be just a hologram. Longtime fans had tears in their eyes, as if they relived their earlier years in the 90s. Through the miracle of technology, we were able to bring back the voice and embodiment of a musician who hasn't been alive since 1996. People were blown away by the performance, and thanks to media coverage and social media, word of holographic performances spread like a wildfire. Soon enough, the old dirty bastard from the Wu-Tang Clan appeared on the stage in New York, almost a decade after his death. A year later, Michael Jackson moonwalked across the stage at the Billboard Music Awards. None of us will ever forget when Prince appeared during the Super Bowl halftime show. It wouldn't be long before the first hologram musical would go on tour. That being said, these performances received mixed reviews by both fans and critics alike. Although the sound quality and visual effects were impressive, some people reported a strange feeling they had while watching the hologram. Some felt a strong feeling of discomfort and couldn't exactly explain why. Some researchers have come out and tried to explain that this is due to a phenomenon that is known as the uncanny valley. The uncanny valley is a theory that hypothesizes there is a relationship with how human something can act and our reaction to that object. For example, when we see something that strongly resembles a human but is slightly off, we are repulsed by it. And for some, the illusions of these holograms trigger these same feelings. I'm here to tell you today that there is so much more to these feelings that science can't even begin to explain. At the time I worked for Digital Domain, the special effects production company behind the Tupac Shakur hologram. During early tests and reviews, things seemed pretty normal. It was after that one night, weeks before Coachella, where things took a strange and unsettling turn. Myself, as well as the rest of the editing crew, were working late to fix a few subtle glitches in the images. During our last review, we caught a few frames where the hologram's eyes moved in different directions, and split frames where his lips didn't match up with the lyrics. None of us thought anything of it, and were working late to make sure it was lifelike as possible for the big stage. After the first few attempts, things got even stranger. At one point in the middle of Keep Your Head Up, the hologram stopped dead in its tracks. It stood there rigid, eyes facing forward with a forlorn look on its face. Some began to search furiously to find out what frame we were stuck on, but my eyes never left the hologram. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, his lips began to move. I got out of my seat and leaned in close to try to make out what words the lips were forming. Then, to my absolute horror, 2 holes appeared in the hologram's chest, then one in the arm and another in the thigh. I fell back into my chair as the appearance of blood began to seep from the wounds, The hologram's face never changed. Then, for the first time since its lips began to move, one word came through our speakers. Mama? The hologram's eyes then rolled back, and the mouth opened wide, and then just like that, it stopped. The image of Tupac went back to his performance, and the lyrics of the song continued. The bleeding bullet holes were gone. There were many reactions from the crew that night. Some claimed they didn't see it. Others claimed they saw the bullet holes but didn't hear the words. And others outright claimed it was nothing more than a glitch. One thing was for certain, though. The show must go on. Days after the incident, I went back through every single frame and couldn't find a single one that showed me the image I saw that night. There was no way that what we saw that night was a simple glitch. What are the odds that an image would appear in the exact same manner the rapper was left after being gunned down 23 years ago? Although, soon after the incident, every single member of the crew was approached by studio executives who strong-armed us into signing a non-disclosure agreement that prevented us from ever talking about the incident. Rumors spread fast through the special effects studios. I've heard from Next Soundman, who helped work on the Roy Orbison and Buddy Holly hologram tour, that his department also had their own incident. During the test performance, Buddy Holly's hologram also froze partway through Rave On, leaving the hologram crouched over with his head between his knees and his hands over his head. He also claimed that he heard the words, "We're going down, we're going down," were repeated by the hologram over and over again, with his tone growing more and more frantic. Then, just like that, it continued to perform just the way it did before. The studio's head CEO assumed this was a prank made by the editing crew, made in poor taste at the deceased musician's expense. Buddy Holly, as some of you may not know, was the victim of a plane crash in 1959. Everyone in the editing department was fired without further investigation or notice, and were also made to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Not much later, I caught wind of rumors of a severe incident during the makings of the Michael Jackson performance. Many of you may not know that originally, before the Michael Jackson hologram appeared briefly on the stage during the Billboard Music Awards, our studio was tasked with the editing of what was supposed to be an entire concert of some Michael Jackson greatest hits. After this particular incident, the whole project was scrapped, save the frames later on salvaged for his performance of Slave to the Rhythm later on that year. Here were the details of the incident as follows. During the editing of Michael Jackson's song Smooth Criminal, the hologram began acting erratically. Sometimes portions of the hologram's body, like his legs and torso, would freeze, as if stuck in place, while the rest of its body continued to move unnaturally. Soon they began to notice they could hear strange whispers over the original audio of the song in Jackson's voice. No one could understand the words, as they almost sounded like they were being spoken backward, like a voice recording being played in reverse. Then a power surge caused the entire studio to black out. Every single light and computer monitor screen went dark, and the speakers went silent. Then, to everyone's shock, the hologram kept moving. Its limbs began to bend at unnatural angles. The facial expressions began to change between looks of abject horror, anguish, amusement, sadness, and anger. Some witnesses said they began to smell sulfur in the air. Others claimed the smell was more like rotten meat. Some witnesses began to hear whispers and many voices around them, sometimes behind them, sometimes in front of them. Sometimes they sounded as if they were being whispered right into their ears. The hologram began to bleed from its eyes, ears, and mouth, and its eyes somehow seemed to look into the eyes of the witnesses all at once. Its mouth began to open impossibly wide as a desperate wail erupted from its holographic vocal cords. The hologram vanished as the recording of the evil laugh from Jackson's music video for Thriller boomed from the speakers. After this incident, non-disclosures and hush money were not even needed. The few witnesses all recessed into different states of silence, the least extreme case being driven into insanity. The most extreme case being suicide. The higher-ups in the studio expressed that the results were caused due to the extreme pressure the staff was working under, and the unfortunate negative effects flashing lights in the studio had on the human mind. The only reason I found out about this incident myself was that one of my coworkers, who I will not name, was asked by one of the witnesses to scrub some of the audio to see what he could make of it. After listening briefly to the strange words being spoken by the hologram, he then played it in reverse to find the words that were being spoken backward in Jackson's voice. In an almost robotic monotone, his words were clear. Can you feel them? Can you smell them? Can you hear them? They are close. They are near. Then, after a long pause, they are here. Before he was able to share these findings with the witness, he found out that the same man's mind had recessed back into a blank state that was said to have been caused by a nervous breakdown soon after the incident. Although not soon afterward, I was laid off due to our special effects production company filing for bankruptcy after some copyright lawsuits. Part of me was relieved when I received the news, knowing that the tampering with the unknown that was causing these incidents would finally stop. Sadly, as the popularity of holographic performances continues to grow, nothing will stop these companies from digging up the dead and disturbing the likes of whatever abysmal beings tend to the souls of the deceased. Who will be next? David Bowie? Freddie Mercury? Kurt Cobain? I don't know exactly how it happened. Perhaps the likeness of the musicians bore so much resemblance to their counterparts that their disembodied spirit was able to temporarily speak through their image. Or perhaps whatever unearthly beings who were tasked to tend to the souls of the dead suspected a resurrection and attempted to break into our realm to claim it back. Whatever it is, our human brains cannot comprehend it. It drives men mad from the briefest exposure. I even find myself falling into depression and anxiety, spending my time self-medicating so that I may temporarily forget about what I saw that night in the studio. What if the next incident occurred in a stadium or a concert hall in front of hundreds of people? The effects would be catastrophic. There's nothing I can do about it except warn you. Please, if you value your life and your sanity, never attend a holographic concert. Remember the artists for who they were in life and let them rest in peace. Let them live on through our hearts and their music, not through some perverse reincarnation made with technology. Let what is dead stay dead. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. I want to give a huge thanks to all of my supporters over at Patreon and YouTube memberships. Your support makes these narrations possible, and I appreciate it a ton. If you'd like to join these lovely ghouls, you can head on over to my Patreon at patreon.com/ClancyPasta, or click the join button below to become a member. And if you'd like creepy cool shirts, make sure to head on over and check out my official merch store for some awesome tees, hoodies, stickers, and more. Alright. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great night. Cheers.